Hey there, I'm Taz Singh, and I've been working with communities for as long as I can remember. Fundamentally, communities are made up of people, so this is my journey going to those communities and talking to those people. Come along with me. Awesome. I'm here now, South Beach, Miami, Surf Karma Hotel. This is the place to be. This venue is beautiful. I mean, like, I'm not sure if you can see the trees behind us. There's a whole garden basically going on over here. It is insane. Dev DAO, Web Equity, putting on this crazy event over here. And who do I find other than my buddy Withart? He's the Dev Guild lead at Dev DAO?
The Dev Guild lead at Dev DAO.
That's amazing. And I call him Withart because I don't even know, like, what's your real name again?
My real name is Mark. I'm a pink-haired anime girl on the internet.
Yeah, I know him to be a pink-haired anime girl, and so when I found out that he didn't have pink hair, and he's not a girl, and he's not an anime character, I was kind of like, what? What's going on over here? But then talking to Mark a bit more, I kind of found out a bit more about what he's doing with the Dev Guild, essentially what's going on with Dev DAO, and so yeah, Mark, like, would you like to tell us a bit more about Dev DAO? I feel like I could explain, but I could explain it poorly, so I feel like since you kind of work there, you know what I mean?
Right, that makes perfect sense. So Developer DAO is a DAO, and what that means changes based on who you talk to and their perspective of the DAO. From my perspective, what the DAO is an organization that enables us to kind of tap into like the like collective chaos and energy of our members in order to build cool shit together. So I'm allowed to cuss, right?
You can say whatever you want, sir.
Fuck yeah, okay. Yeah, so I tend to tell people, like, with a company, you would start with an idea of what it is that you want to do. And then from there, you need to secure funding so that you can then get the people you need to build that thing, right? With Developer DAO, we kind of have the opposite problem where we have a ton of really interesting, smart, passionate people who want to just like do stuff. They want to build things. They want to find success, whatever that might mean for them and their friends. And we have an ecosystem where we have a lot of partners who want to support us financially in doing those things. And then that leaves us with needing to discover our purpose, which is quite a challenge to have, right? So we have somewhere around, I think, 6,000 members in the DAO. So that's a lot of people to have, a lot of chaos going on. And our job as a DAO is to find ways to enable our members to get to know each other, to find alignment with each other on the things that they want to do, and then to get the support they need to actually do that and execute and move forward with those things.
Makes a ton of sense. And I just want to say for a second there, it's actually 6001 because I was given an NFT just a few weeks ago by Nader. And so I'm not part of Dev DAO. And I have to say, being in there, it is kind of like, it's basically chaotic good. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on, a lot of people wanting to do things, but like there's so much energy in there. There's so much happening in there. Like I was telling Mark the other day, I've never seen a community organize itself essentially like Dev DAO does. And so I've never seen a community like ever exist in that format. And like obviously like essentially you guys know, it's my job to go talk to communities everywhere, right? Like I talk to a lot of communities and I've never seen anything like Dev DAO ever before. It is insane. If you aren't familiar with it, definitely go check it out. But I guess to like roll back a little bit, DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization.
Decentralized Autonomous Organization.
And so I think I was browsing through the Discord the other day, and then someone said like, hey, I think we should like set up a channel for like GitHub notifications or whatever, like in Discord or whatever. And like they're like essentially they were looking for approval to go do that. And I saw you responded, do it. Just go do it.
Do it.
Just go do it.
Yeah.
You know, because like there's no centralized authority there that kind of says like there's no kind of Kanban board or any of that. You know what I mean? If you want to go do something, just go do it.
Right.
And so yeah, would you want to talk to us a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the way I look at my role as a member of the core team of Developer DAO and the Development Guild lead is I'm in a position of leadership, but my job is not to tell people what to do. My job is not to have people come to me for approval. My job is to shepherd things, help people make friends, help people find common goals and outcomes that they want to achieve, and then do what I can to get the support they need to do that, whether that's helping move our product guild idea along to get product support in building something, building relationships with outside partners and coordinating with them to get the funding that a project needs. There's a lot of support things that we need, but my job is not to tell people what to do. It's not to be the boss. It's just to help people achieve their dreams and discover their goals.
Well, Mark, I'm not sure if you play a lot of video games, but for me, I play a lot of video games. It's the one thing I know from video games. You do not want to be the boss. You do not want to be the boss. The boss is the guy that gets killed at the end of the day.
Right.
The guy or girl.
Yeah.
The person that gets killed at the end of the day. Sometimes not even a person. It could just be something that gets killed. And so basically, you do not want to be the boss.
Could be a creature. You never know. It could be anything.
It could be anything. So in DevDAO, there's no real boss. There's no real kind of person kind of yaying or naying things. It's like if you want to go do something, you have the initiative and the support from the community at the end of the day, to kind of do that. You basically you kind of drum up interest from the group to go do something.
That's what I like to think that, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that's what we tell people. That's what I think a lot of people like to think, but there's also a lot of just hidden power structures in everything, right?
100%.
And so it's one of the problems I think we have run into is we have this process that we call democratic, where for something to be approved by the DAO, something that affects the DAO as a whole, like a financial decision or something like that, it has to go through this whole process where the governance guild meets to discuss it. It gets put on the forums as a draft. Then it moves to an official proposal on the forum. It has to get approval, a majority approval on the forum. Then it goes to Snapshot, which is where our token holders, our NFT holders, actually use their token to vote. That guy, this guy, brand new baby DAO member.
6001.
Yeah, the 6001th member. So we get to that point. Once it passes the Snapshot vote, that's when it becomes an official decision, right? And it is democratic in that sense, but what we've also noticed is that basically anything we as a core team put out as a proposal tends to it's not necessarily blanket approval, but it will just coast through that process, right? And so it is we want it to be hierarchy-less, and I think that's the ultimate goal is to try to decentralize things as much as possible. But it's important that we also recognize that there's that implicit bias of people trust us because we've been here, and they're willing to go along with the things that we'll do. So it's been an interesting ride for me where it's I feel like I have good ideas that I want to see accomplished, but I have to be very careful in not just dumping my ideas all over people, because I can just accidentally railroad our whole community just because of that hidden power structure that's there where people trust me and they want to they want to go along with what I'm saying, right?
But the part that I find very interesting is, Mark just described a whole set of mechanisms to kind of, allow people to have a bit more of a voice. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you say there's a vote, basically it's one NFT, one vote type of thing?
Yes.
Okay, so that's refreshing because there's so many different projects out there where it's basically the number of tokens you hold. So if I'm part of I'm pretty sure ENS, essentially Ethereum Name Services, they recently issued a token, and the number of tokens you have. So if I have 1,000 tokens and Mark has one token, and basically I have 1,000 times to say that Mark has,
right.
Which I think is it's not really democratic. It's very much of a power struggle depending on who owns the number of shares in the project essentially at the end of the day. But with DevDAO, it is quite democratic. It's one NFT, one vote, and really one NFT really means one person. I'm guessing a person could hoard NFTs, but you probably haven't seen that as much yet.
It's hard to tell, right?
It's hard to tell.
There's no real way to know if somebody's doing that. We saw early on that there were There was one wallet that had 54 tokens.
Oh, wow.
But somebody could have easily set up an infinite number of wallets and collected one in each, and we'd never know that that isn't just one person, right? So
yeah.
it's difficult. It's difficult to know that what we're doing is the right thing, but it feels like.
I think at the end of the day, like, people can always try to pick holes in any project. You know what I mean? Like people who try to do that with projects I've worked on my whole life, right? But at the end of the day, you have to look at like the positivity and kind of like what like how we're trying to move things forward.
Right.
And I think with DevDAO, as I said, I've never seen anything like this trying to move things forward. I've never seen like such a democratic system. I've never seen like the type of system that like essentially Mark has just detailed. It's a challenge that I had recently, essentially at Toronto JS, where like I founded Toronto JS back in 2010. I ended up moving to London, UK in like late 2016, 2017, and so like I was no longer in Toronto. Like it didn't make sense for like someone that's no longer in that city to kind of run a community in that city. And so I passed it off kindly to my co-organizers, and they basically run Toronto JS now. But you know, like they tell me, Taz, you still have so much moral authority over this community because you started it. You know, like everyone kind of knows you. Like a lot of people are here because of you.
You're legendary.
You're going back to like bosses now, right? I'm basically a legendary boss.
The legendary
This guy's
boss.
gonna kill me later. like essentially with alcohol though. Like gonna kill me with alcohol.
in a good way.
Yeah, like in a good way. But like because I have so much like kind of moral community authority, kind of like if I support something or don't support something, kind of the community just kind of implicitly follows that. And you know, like that's a problem anywhere. But critically, you know, like a community like Toronto JS, and I'm not saying this to kind of put Toronto JS down or anything. I think Toronto JS is obviously is wonderful and amazing in so many different ways. But like, you know, talking to DevDAO, like we don't have those types of like democratic processes in place to kind of have governance votes. We don't have a governance team. We don't have like a voting process. We don't have like a forum to just, you know, like you know what I mean?
Right.
So like all those details in place, you know, make it more accessible for anyone to kind of go and observe and comprehend, and then hopefully eventually participate. Hopefully eventually drum up that moral authority. But at the end of the day, it's transparent. It's open. It's accessible. And so anyone can start with it. Yeah, and that's what I find cool.
Right. Yeah, it's a step in the right direction for sure. It's like there's always improvements that can be made to governance processes. There's always more things that can be decentralized. Yeah, I feel proud of what we have so far. You know, I don't mean to shit on it or anything like that. It's just like there's always things to watch out for. Just like infinite biases floating around all over the place.
Yeah, well, I think it's also the curse of being a developer, where you know, you're always looking at like bugs to fix. You're always looking at like problems to solve. You're always looking at like I often say like developers are kind of like the cooks in the back of the kitchen, and so you're like, is this thing too salty? Like do I need any sort of like additional ingredients in this? You know what I mean? You're always thinking about how to improve that dish. But at the end of the day, it's a pretty good dish. You know what I mean? But you're always thinking about that being a developer. You're always thinking about that being a cook. Like, how do I improve this? You're always thinking about the flaws in it, and it's difficult to look at kind of the greater picture, which I think is quite cool.
I'm mostly DoorDash, but I'll take your word for it.
I also don't really cook.
I laugh because it's like let's just move on. Modern problems.
But yeah, like I'm curious, like how do you start with like so now you lead the Dev Guild? You like essentially what does that mean? Like, I'm not sure if I described it properly or not, but like how do you even start with that, you know?
That's a tough thing to answer. It kind of shifts based on what members need, and I think really the biggest challenge for me has been internal, right? Like there's a lot going on. There are a lot of people who are trying to start things and trying to coordinate with each other and get things moving. And so there's a lot of moving details and a lot of things that need my support and my attention. And that's always been a struggle for me because I've always had just like extremely fucking severe ADHD, right? Which has been a problem for most of my life. It has led me down a lot of dark paths where I've not had full control over my mind. And it's been a struggle and something that I've had to work on just as much as I've worked on the DAO over the last few months has been learning how to deal with that more myself, to be able to take on more responsibility like that, so that I can be more of a coordinator, I can juggle more details, and I can be the thing that is needed at the moment to be able to do that. So it's just as much internal as it is being part of the guild. And I think the most important thing on that side is just presence. I've had to learn how to be present with the guild, to be present with members. And that's led us down some really great paths, I think, where like, I think what I'm most proud of with the Dev Guild is that we have a lot of people are on the internet for a very long time. Like, I'm 33, I've been on the internet since I was like 10, I think. And I spent most of my life just being a lurker for the most part. It's like, early on, it's like I'm in IRC, but I don't really talk to that many people. Moved to like forums. I'm on the forums all the time, but I'm not really participating. And that pattern has like continued throughout my life. And at some point, I don't even know when, I broke that barrier. But there's been a lot of people who have joined the DAO, and it's very intimidating because you come in, there's like 400 fucking channels on Discord, because Discord is great, but terrible at the same time. And there's like thousands of people. So, if you're somebody who's always been a lurker and you come into that situation, it's just like, oh fuck, well, I'm just gonna keep lurking because I don't know anybody, I don't feel comfortable. And what I've been able to do is just like get people to come alive, I guess, like by giving a lot of encouragement and by trying to just be present with people to get them to get out of their shell a little bit. And so I've seen so many people who have come in, they clearly have good ideas, they're clearly very well-intentioned people, and I think that everyone has a very deep potential to like change the world in their own little way, right? Like, maybe it's not being on a core team of a DAO or being the Dev Guild leader, but like everybody has something to offer. And so it's like, I want to find that thing in each person and help them come alive with that. And so,
like, at the end of the day, like that's the spirit of community, right? That's really the empowerment of community. Community is only as good as the people within it, and the people within it make the community. It's kind of a double-sided effect there, right? Where if you elevate a person in the community, you also elevate that community, and by elevating the community, you elevate more people, and so it's kind of a lovely loop of kind of love, a lovely loop of love.
A lovely loop of love. Yeah, it's like a spiral, right? Like, I've always had this thought about, it's kind of a parallel. So like, I've always struggled a lot with depression, and the problem with depression is like, it's a downward spiral, right? Like, something just starts this trend where you're thinking downward, you get in your head and you're talking shit about yourself, you're looking down on your own life, and it's like, the more you do that, the faster you're spiraling downward to the point that it just like gets out of control. But the opposite is also true. If you can break that cycle and learn to start to say nice things about yourself and start to accept things about yourself that maybe you don't like, it's a spiral in the other direction. And the more that you do that, the more momentum you get on that spiral, and it lifts you out of that. And so it's like the same thing in a community, right? Like, the more you can get, like, you get one person to come alive, that's now two people, right? And that other person is being alive, is setting an example for others, and is wanting to do the same thing. So then you have, each of you now bring in two people, make them come alive. And suddenly you just have this spiral that just keeps getting larger. And the crazy thing is, like, there's no end to that, right? Like, there's so many people, and this ecosystem outside of the DAO is huge. We're starting to break out of that, where people are building relationships with other groups and getting them excited about our own existence. So it's like a very exciting time. And it's like, at the end of the day, even if nothing else works out for Developer DAO, knowing that we've been able to get these people to come alive and to stop being lurkers, to start being participators in the community and in their own lives, like seeking success and finding ways to make that happen, like, that to me is just worth it. It's entirely worth it.
That's why I do what I do. You know what I mean? That's why I do what I do. But as I said, I've never seen anything like DevDAO in my whole life. There's
Right.
nothing,
Yeah, same.
nothing
Same.
like it. And so like the types of enablement, like the whole vibe in DevDAO is insane. Like we're here in Miami. We're at a DevDAO event in Miami. There's a DevDAO event, I think, right now in Amsterdam as well.
Yes, in Amsterdam.
And like what? You know what I mean? Like those
Yeah.
are two very different geographies, but there's DevDAO events in both of those. There's DevDAO like events in like London. There was, I think, one
There was a meetup recently,
I think
a couple weeks ago.
in like Prague or something as well. Like I think I don't even know where all the DevDAO events are happening, but they're all over the place.
That's the crazy thing. There's just shit happening everywhere all the time, and it's like impossible to even be aware of it, but it's like you just know it's going on all the time. And it's the same thing with like coming to these things or like talking to people online. There's just like DD people we call it DD, Developer DAO. There's just like coming out of the woodwork, there's just like Developer DAO people. Like I go in a room and I mention Developer DAO at like an event in Miami that I think has nothing to do with Web3 or Developer DAO, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in Developer DAO. Yeah, me too. Hey, and like next thing you know, you got like a whole crowd of Developer DAO people, and it's just wild. It's just wild.
It's insane. You know what I mean? Like for me, I can go around and say Toronto JS as much as I want, but like everyone will be like, oh, okay, buddy.
Right. Yeah.
And so Developer DAO just kind of bridges all those gaps and kind of brings so many people together. So like all these things sound amazing to me, but I guess it's just coming outside of the whole DevDAO space for a little bit. Like I'm guessing you're a developer before. I'm guessing you do things outside of the DAO.
Yes, I have been known to do a thing that isn't the DAO. Very rarely.
Very, very rarely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess tell me a bit more about yourself. Like what sort of stuff do you do for fun inside the DAO? Like yeah.
Sure. So I guess I'll just do a real quick origin story. Like,
we're getting the pink anime character origin story now.
Yeah. How I got from being little Mark to being pink anime girl on the internet with heart. So graduated high school, and I like to tell people that I discovered weed, depression, and World of Warcraft all at the same time.
Nice.
So dropped out of college.
I mean, like depression, not nice.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But essentially, weed and World of Warcraft, very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably are the reason for depression. Who knows? Chicken or the egg. And so it was like, dropped out of college, and just had no self-confidence at all. For almost a decade, I was filling vending machines. I was driving a truck delivering food supplies and coffee supplies to businesses around Cincinnati. And I had always been convinced in my own mind that like you have to have a degree to be able to become a developer. And that felt impossible to me.
So like what, you were delivering food?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow,
I'd like drive a box truck around.
Essentially, no wonder you're basically so into DoorDash, you know?
Right?
You're
Yeah, it's
that
old
used to
habits
be
die
me.
hard, you
Yeah.
know?
Like I'm giving that guy a tip.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, just didn't enjoy my life at all for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then I I'd always been like a script kiddie on IRC, like I built little MIRC bots, and I'd always been interested in tech and programming, and I liked it, right? Like I loved writing code, but I felt like there was no way I could get into it. And then at some point I decided to go to a JS meetup in Cincinnati. My very first meetup, I walk up to the door and I met a guy named Matthew Robinson who worked at Kroger, which is the largest grocery chain in the United States. Very first person I meet at my very first meetup turned into a great relationship. He turned into friends. He looked at my GitHub, which was just like a bunch of random Ruby stuff that I've been playing with, and he's like, you know what? Your code is actually pretty good. If we just like practice for a little while, you could easily become a dev. So just that tiny bit of encouragement from him changed the whole game for me, because up until that point, that entire pathway had just been impossible. Like I didn't know it at the time, but I had untreated ADHD, so I didn't feel like I could go to school. I didn't feel like that was a pathway for me. And then meeting this one person, just taking that slight risk of going to that meetup, led me down this path where I'm now leading a DAO, and I'm a dev doing all the shit that I love, and I build open source. And like, so I tell that story because I think that's very important to like explain my attitude about how I approach leadership in the DAO. Like, I've struggled to get where I was. I struggled to even get control of my own mind and even enjoy my own life, right? So it's like, I feel like I can look at anyone and feel like just this deep well of empathy. Like, shit sucks sometimes, and life is very difficult, it's very hard, and it's like, whatever you're going through, whatever you're struggling with, or if you're not even struggling with anything, right? Like, maybe you're finding a lot of success, whatever it is okay. You are a worthy person to have friends. You are a worthy person to join a community and get involved. Like, you don't have to be some powerhouse dev, some 10x dev. You don't even have to be a dev. You don't even have to be somebody who has a clear skill yet. You belong, right? And I think just like setting that as the baseline for everything that we do in the Dev Guild, just like, it's all okay, whether you know how to reach success or not. Just participate, just be yourself and learn to enjoy being yourself and learn to enjoy being yourself with others. And I feel like that's unlocking some really great things for us. And I would not wish that existence on anyone that I struggled with, right? Like, that was hell, but it gave me a very deep appreciation for like how much people can hurt and how much people deserve to come alive and enjoy their lives. And
yeah, I mean, like I couldn't agree more. It's why I'm also, you know, so involved with community. I've been through hell and back, like in my childhood. Well, like I guess up until I was 18 years old, dropped out of university, moved downtown Toronto, used to beg for cigarettes on the corner of Front Street and Blue Jays Way. If you know Toronto, which is right down
to Puddle Butt,
right downtown. Is that where you kind of pick up all the butts off the street and then
Trailer Park Boys.
But like we couldn't. I couldn't afford. I couldn't afford to feed myself, and so just by bumming cigarettes off of strangers, that was kind of my sustenance, because I couldn't scrounge up the number of pennies it took to buy store-bought noodles, and so I went through a very difficult time myself when I was around 18, and thankfully I was a software developer before that. Thankfully I had a laptop. Thankfully I kind of coded my way out of that situation by just working like random Craigslist jobs and just trying to scrounge up enough money just to pay rent. But exactly what you just said, which is I would never wish that upon anyone. I wish anyone that I know, I wish everyone that I know has a better existence than that. And the best way to enable that, the best way to kind of help people with that is through community. And I love that. I love that you were kind of enabled back then through Matthew Robinson at Kroger. And so I think that's amazing is how community enabled Mark from the get-go, and now Mark is enabling so many people through Developer DAO and the whole Developer DAO community as well. So that just speaks volumes to me, dude. And so I ended up just meeting Mark a couple days ago, and just talking to him ever since has been so much fun and been so lovely. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Bring it in. Bring it in.
You're a good dude, man. It's been a good time.
You too, man. Go check out his stuff. With Heart online. Are you with Heart on Twitter?
No. Somebody who posted 3 messages in 2014 has With Heart. So I am grow_love on Twitter, but I am with-heart on GitHub and Discord.
And Dev DAO as well. So go check them out. All right, we'll see y'all. See you next time.
Bye, y'all.